So we're about to jump on a flight to the Philippines for work and to visit some of our friends. And it's a long flight. It's going to be a three-legged flight, and the longest leg is 14 and a half hours. If you've never been on a really long trip like this before, a really long flight, here are some tips.
So if you're not TSA pre-qualified, I would recommend doing that. If you have an international credit card, most credit card companies will offer that as a free benefit, so you don't have to pay for it. And then arrive early to the airport so you can sit down and have a nice breakfast or a nice meal before your long flight.
Oftentimes on a long flight, you're going to be charging your phone several times, or your devices. So I bring a pouch, like this little ramen pouch, full of cables. I got a USB-C, I got a USB micro, and I got a lightning cable. But also, so when you're in the airport, you always see these plugs. The USB is almost always worn out. So I make sure, and also while I'm here, I've got an adapter. So if the USB is worn out, I can always just use that.
So when you're traveling, whether it's a long flight or short flight, always carry a water bottle with you. When you go through TSA, it needs to be empty, but once you've gone through TSA, before getting on the plane, you can go ahead and fill it up. Most fountains these days have these no-touch filling stations. And if you notice here, this is how many bottles just this one station has kept out of the recycle. And then go ahead and put your lid on it. Now, this one's for Charles. I got mine filled at the restaurant, okay? And I got it filled with iced tea and it's cold. So what you want to do is you want to take a napkin and wrap it around it because you don't want it to sweat in your carry-on. Oops, not my napkin twisted here. And wrap your napkin around it. And then put it inside a Ziploc baggie. You don't have to close the Ziploc baggie. This is just going to help keep it cool, but it's also going to keep that condensation from getting on the rest of your carry-on.
When you're changing planes in an international airport, you often are making connections that are difficult, or the airports are very big. Like Heathrow, it takes just an hour to get from domestic gate to international gates. So allow yourself plenty of time. Make sure your connections are at least 2 hours when you're making an international connection.
Because your flight might be late.
Yeah, like ours was. We're hustling. Even if you normally prefer a window seat, try to get an aisle seat on a longer flight. People will often be sleeping, and if you have the window, you'll have to ask a couple of people to move. So it's always better to get an aisle seat if you can on a longer flight. You want to make sure and get up every few hours and have a stretch. If you've been sitting in the seat too long, it's bad for you and it's quite painful. About an hour before the flight is over, the flight attendants will announce that they're going to be landing. Everyone will jump up to use the lavatory, so plan ahead. About 90 minutes before the flight is over, get up to use the lavatory, so you don't have to wait in the long line. When you're transferring through an international airport, you might be rushed, but take some time to look around. There's always artwork or cultural exhibits from their own country that you might not see because you're not stopping in those countries.
There's indoor grass.
And there's indoor grass. I think so too. So one tip I don't have, and one that I'm hoping that people might be able to answer me, is how the heck you sleep on an airplane.
With your eyes closed.
I take sleeping pills. This is the first time I've taken sleeping pills on a flight. Still, no good. All it did was make me tired. It did not put me to sleep. So, if anybody has any tips, leave some in the comments.
You said close your eyes.
Whenever you're traveling abroad, especially when you're transferring through an airport that's not your final destination, make sure and check websites like toiletguru.com because you never know what you're gonna get. I always try to carry a roll of toilet tissue in my carry-on with me wherever I go, whenever I'm outside the US, because you never know. Somehow we were able to get on 3 flights that were all delayed, and yet we arrived 15 minutes early.
That's amazing.
It's never happened before, but we did it. So how did you find these tips? Did you like them or did you not? If you liked them, give them a thumbs up. If you didn't, let us know, and give us tips of your own in the comments. So I'm Charles.
I'm Karalee.
Thank you for sharing
The
Wonder About Us.